When I went to the hospital for the birth of my child, I never expected to see my ex-husband, Brian, who works there as a doctor. He was taken aback and asked, "You're pregnant at your age?" A nurse nearby heard him and said, "Doctor, that lady is." He looked confused and asked, "What?" At 33, while working as a nurse at the city's general hospital, I met Brian. He was a young doctor, just finishing his residency, and 5 years younger than me. Brian arrived at the hospital with a lot of energy and a thirst for knowledge, which immediately caught my attention. One particularly hectic day, as I was organizing medications and overseeing patients, Brian approached me with a shy smile. "Hi, I'm Brian, the new intern doctor. They told me you're Emily, the most experienced nurse here. Could you help me understand how to administer these medications?" he asked, holding a notebook. His sincerity and eagerness to learn were the first sparks of what would become a great friendship. "Sure, Brian, it's simple. Let me show you," I responded. Together, we spent the afternoon moving between patients and medicines, discussing every necessary detail. As days passed, our conversations extended beyond medical topics. We talked about our lives, aspirations, and eventually our personal dreams and fears. One winter afternoon, sharing a coffee in the hospital's small cafe, our destinies took an unexpected turn. "Emily, I really enjoy our talks. You make me forget the hospital's pressure for a moment," Brian said, looking at me with those pure and sincere eyes. "I appreciate your company, Brian. It's refreshing to talk to someone who really listens," I confessed, feeling my heart opening to new feelings. Weeks turned into months, and what began as mentorship gradually blossomed into a romance. The age difference and our positions at the hospital were topics of conversation, but never an obstacle. Brian handled it with humor and grace. "Does it bother you that I'm 5 years younger?" Brian asked one night with a playful smile as we walked through the park near the hospital. "To be honest, it did at first, but with you, age is just a number," I replied, intertwining my hand with his, feeling a deep and sincere connection. 2 years after our first meeting, Brian and I decided to get married. It was a simple yet beautiful ceremony, filled with friends, family, and above all, mutual love and respect that we promised to uphold always. Despite the challenges, our love strengthened, and each difficulty only made us stronger together. Today, more than ever, I'm sure that marrying you was the best decision of my life, Brian expressed during our wedding dance, his words resonating with truth and warmth in my heart. "And I've never been happier, Brian. Thank you for choosing me, for loving me just as I am," I said, knowing that every word we spoke was building the foundations of our future together. Our marriage marked the beginning of a new phase, where each day was an opportunity to grow, learn, and love more deeply. Brian and I were more than husband and wife. We were partners in life, in love, and in every challenge we would face together. During the first 5 years, our marriage was quite happy. We shared sweet moments, supporting each other both professionally and personally through every challenge we faced. However, over time, I began to notice a change in Brian. What started as occasional odd behavior gradually became a constant source of concern. One evening, while we were quietly having dinner at home, Brian made a comment that took me by surprise. "Emily, have you ever thought about how things might have been if you'd met someone younger?" he asked, staring into the distance, his mind seemingly elsewhere. "What do you mean by that, Brian?" I asked, feeling a knot form in my stomach. "Nothing, forget it. Just thoughts out loud," he quickly responded, trying to smile, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. These types of comments became more frequent. Brian started to express regrets about not choosing a younger partner, which deeply hurt me every time I heard it. I tried to talk to him about how I felt, but he remained evasive and distant. One day, while organizing some papers at the hospital, I heard laughter coming from the hallway. Peeking out, I saw Brian chatting animatedly with one of the new nurses. It wasn't the first time, but something about the way he looked at her and casually touched her arm made me feel like I couldn't breathe. "Brian, can we talk for a moment?" I asked, interrupting their conversation. Brian looked at me, confused and slightly annoyed. "Emily, what's the matter?" "We were just discussing a patient," he said. "Brian, I've noticed how you look at her and how you talk to her. It's hurting me. Doesn't it matter to you how I feel?" My words came out in a rush, a torrent of emotion and frustration. Brian sighed, running his hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. "Emily, you're exaggerating. It's just work, nothing more. I don't know why you're making a big deal out of this." But it wasn't just work. In the weeks that followed, Brian's interactions with the young nurses became more blatant. I tried to ignore the rumors and whispers among some of the colleagues, but each comment, each indiscreet glance Brian gave, made me feel belittled and emotionally abandoned. One day, after a long shift, I decided to confront him. I waited for him in the parking lot where I knew we would have some privacy. "Brian, this can't continue. You're kidding me with your behavior. What's going on with you?" My voice trembled despite my efforts to remain calm. "Emily, Brian started, but his words trailed off. Then, in a whisper, he admitted, "Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I should have chosen someone younger." Those words were a dagger to my heart. The indifference in his tone showed me the harsh reality of our fading love. Although it was devastating, I knew I couldn't let the situation drag on and destroy me from within. "Brian, if that's what you really think, then maybe we should reconsider all of this," I said, gesturing to our relationship, our marriage, the life we had built. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions and difficult decisions. The love I thought would last forever was crumbling before my eyes due to superficial desires and a changing heart. The decision to divorce was painful but necessary, a step towards freeing myself from a love that no longer served me and towards personal healing. Every step I took from then on was an effort to rebuild my self-esteem and rediscover happiness in my own company and in a future without Brian. The situation deteriorated rapidly, and the emotional strain was immense. I knew that I needed to make a change for my own well-being. One day, while on my usual rounds at the hospital, I noticed Brian whispering with a young nurse who was notably younger than me. The scene made me uncomfortable, but I decided to ignore it, hoping it was just my insecurities playing tricks on me. However, the reality was much harsher than I could imagine. One afternoon, while organizing documents in the office, I accidentally came across an open medical file on Brian's desk. The patient's name was unfamiliar, but what really caught my attention was a handwritten note by Brian that said, "Follow the instructions to the letter, and everything will go well with the pregnancy." My heart stopped for a moment. Pregnancy? And why was Brian, a doctor, so personally involved with this patient? Determined to understand the situation, I waited until the end of the day to confront him. I found him in the parking lot about to leave. "Brian, we need to talk," I said firmly, trying to hide the tremor in my voice. "What's going on, Emily?" "You seem worried," he responded, clearly surprised by my serious tone. "Who is Maria?" I asked directly without any preamble. Brian paled, his instant reaction confirming my suspicions even before he answered. She's a patient." "Why do you ask?" he stammered, avoiding my gaze. "I found a note of yours about her pregnancy, Brian. Tell me the truth. What's going on?" I insisted, feeling the world begin to spin around me. "Emily, Brian started to say but stopped, taking a deep breath and finally looking me in the eyes. "It's true. Maria is pregnant, and I'm the father." The words hit me like a sledgehammer, knocking the wind out of me. "How could you do this to me?" I screamed, tears forming in my eyes. "How could you betray me this way after everything we've shared?" Brian tried to approach, probably to console me, but I instinctively stepped back. "I'm sorry, Emily. I never intended for things to turn out this way. It just happened," he explained clumsily, though his words felt hollow and reversed. "It just happened?" I repeated incredulously. Brian's excuses enraged and saddened me at the same time. There was nothing he could say to repair the damage done. "I don't want excuses, Brian. What I want is honesty about where we stand. This is beyond repair," I said, the decision clear in my voice even as my heart broke into pieces. Brian, looking defeated, said nothing more. He knew that any attempt at explanation or apology would be futile. He had crossed a line from which there was no return. In the following days, the chasm between us widened. I filed for divorce, a painful but necessary process to close this agonizing chapter of my life. Brian's betrayal had not only destroyed our marriage, but had deeply undermined my ability to trust. With each signed document, I felt the door to our shared history closing, a history once full of love and promises, now tainted by the shadow of betrayal. This experience was devastating, but also a painful lesson about love, trust, and personal resilience. I decided it was time to look forward to new opportunities and a future where I could rebuild my life step by step, with my head held high and my heart in the process of healing. Unable to bear Brian's betrayal, I knew it was necessary to end our marriage. The decision to leave him and the hospital we shared was one of the hardest steps I had to take, but it was essential for my recovery and growth. Although the decision to divorce was extremely difficult, I knew I couldn't continue in a relationship built on dishonesty and pain. With determination, I sought the counsel of a divorce attorney to begin the process and discuss the possibility of obtaining alimony. One day, after making several calls and scheduling appointments, I found myself sitting in front of my lawyer, a competent and empathetic woman named Sarah. "Emily, I've reviewed your case carefully," Sarah began, observing me with a serious look. "Given the circumstances, it's fair for you to seek alimony, especially considering Brian's infidelity. Do you think Brian will oppose it?" I asked, feeling a mix of nervousness and relief at having someone on my side. "It's likely," admitted Sarah. "But I'm here to ensure you get what you deserve. We'll fight for your rights." Armed with evidence and legal documents, Sarah and I prepared for the legal battle. When Brian received the divorce notification and the alimony demand, he was furious. One day, he confronted me in the hospital parking lot, clearly agitated. "How could you do this to me, Emily?" Brian exclaimed, his face red with anger. "A divorce and you're demanding alimony?" "Brian, you betrayed our trust and our marriage," I replied firmly, though my voice trembled. "This is what I deserve for all the damage you've caused. This is robbery. I won't give you a cent," he shouted before storming off. Despite his threats, we continued with the process. The court hearings were tense and emotionally exhausting. Brian tried to discredit me, arguing that alimony was unnecessary and that he wasn't solely to blame for the breakdown of our marriage. The plaintiff expects me to support her life, although she is perfectly capable of working and supporting herself, Brian argued during one session, avoiding looking at me directly. The defendant has admitted his infidelity and has been confronted with evidence of his dishonesty. My client has suffered not only emotionally, but also financially due to the defendant's actions, countered Sarah, presenting a strong and compassionate case on my behalf. After several weeks of deliberations and testimonies, the judge finally made a decision. He granted me alimony, citing Brian's infidelity and its impact on our marital life as the main reasons for his decision. "This is a mistake," Brian murmured barely audibly as we left the court. With the divorce finalized and the alimony secured, I could close that painful chapter of my life. Although the emotional scars remained, I knew I had fought for my justice and dignity. Sarah's support was invaluable, and her dedication allowed me to start anew with a stable financial foundation. The divorce process taught me the importance of self-esteem and the need to stand up for my rights. Brian and I parted ways for good, and I focused on rebuilding my life, a life free from betrayal and filled with new possibilities. Although the experience was painful, it was a crucial step in my journey toward personal recovery and strength. After the divorce, I decided to leave behind not only Brian, but also the apartment where we lived together and the hospital we both worked at. This place, filled with memories and knowing looks from colleagues, had become a toxic environment for me. I needed a fresh start, a place where I could heal and rebuild my personal and professional life. Determined to find a new beginning, I packed my belongings with purpose. Each item I placed in a box represented a step forward. As I filled the boxes, my mind wandered through the memories, both good and bad, that I was leaving behind. Closing the door of that apartment for the last time felt like shedding a heavy burden. It's time to start anew, I told myself, trying to muster the courage to face the unknown. I decided to move to a small apartment a few miles outside the city, near a maternity clinic that offered a unique opportunity, a nursing position that seemed perfect for me. I sent in my application and was called for an interview a few days later. The clinic, located in a quiet suburb, was known for its holistic and empathetic approach to maternity and childcare, a stark contrast to the chaos of the general hospital. Good morning, I'm Emily, here for the nursing position interviewer. I introduced myself at the reception, my voice still trembling slightly from nerves. Yes, Emily. Dr. Smith is expecting you. Please follow me, responded the receptionist with a warm smile that immediately put me at ease. Dr. Smith turned out to be a kind and understanding woman. During the interview, I felt that this place was different. Emily, here at our clinic, we greatly value experience and empathy towards our patients. Your background is impressive, and we're looking for someone with your dedication, Dr. Smith explained while reviewing my resume. Thank you, Dr. Smith. I'm looking for a place where I can positively contribute and also grow personally after some difficult events in my personal life, I responded honestly. I understand perfectly. Here at the clinic, we believe in mutual support and creating a positive and welcoming work environment. We're like a family, she said with a smile that made me feel welcome. At the end of the interview, they offered me the position, and I accepted without hesitation. Starting at the clinic was like a breath of fresh air. The team was welcoming, and the environment was filled with support and camaraderie, far removed from the judgment and toxic competition of the hospital. In the months that followed, my life took a new direction. I fully integrated into the clinic community, participating in activities and programs that not only helped me professionally, but also healed the emotional wounds I still carried. The satisfaction of helping mothers during one of the most important times of their lives filled me with joy and reminded me why I chose to be a nurse. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity, Dr. Smith. This clinic has been a sanctuary for me, I confessed to her one day after an emotional delivery I had assisted with. And we're grateful to have you, Emily. Your compassion and skill are exactly what our clinic needs. Let's keep working together to make this place a refuge not just for our patients, but also for us, the staff, she responded with warmth and encouragement. We knew a bright future waited us. This new beginning marked not just a change of environment, but also a rebirth of my passion for nursing and a confirmation that no matter how difficult the challenges, there is always a path to recovery and happiness. In this clinic, I found not only a job, but a family and a renewed sense of purpose. A typical day at the maternity clinic was both fulfilling and busy. One morning, while I was organizing the medication inventory, a couple walked in through the main door. The woman was visibly pregnant and needed assistance to walk. When I looked up to offer help, my heart skipped a beat. The man accompanying her was Brian, and he recognized me instantly. What followed was a whirlwind of emotions and confrontation. Brian's initial expression of surprise quickly turned into disdain. "What are you doing here?" he snapped, his voice accusatory and loud enough for everyone at the reception to hear. "I work here, Brian. I'm part of the nursing team," I replied, trying to remain calm even though his tone made me nervous. His wife, Maria, confused by the situation, looked back and forth between us, trying to understand what was happening. "Do you think it's normal to follow us here? What are you trying to do, Emily?" Brian continued, raising his voice with each word, drawing the attention of everyone in the area. "Brian, I didn't know you were coming here. It's just a coincidence. Please calm down," I tried to explain, feeling the weight of the stares from those around us. Maria, who had been silent until then, intervened with a voice full of concern. "Brian, please, don't make a scene. I'm sure she didn't know we were coming." "How can you be so sure? This can't just be a coincidence," Brian argued, refusing to lower his voice. "I'm the nurse on duty today. I'm here to help all the patients, including your wife. There's nothing personal about this," I explained, attempting to defuse the situation. However, Brian seemed unwilling to listen and continued making loud accusations about how he believed I was following them. His defensive and accusatory attitude quickly made the situation tense. A nearby doctor, alerted by the commotion, approached us to intervene. "Is there a problem here?" the doctor asked firmly, looking directly at Brian. No problem. We were just clarifying things," Brian finally said, lowering his gaze to his wife, who was clearly uncomfortable with the conflict. "If there's a personal issue, I suggest you handle it outside the clinic. Here, we focus on ensuring our patients' well-being," the doctor responded, then turned to me with a supportive expression. "Nurse, please proceed to help the lady with her check-in." Nodding gratefully, I guided Maria to another room to check her in and prepare her for her appointment, leaving Brian in the reception area, where he continued to mumble but didn't cause any further scene. The incident left me feeling a mix of emotions. Although I had handled the situation professionally, Brian's accusations were hurtful and reminded me of the painful past I had hoped to leave behind. However, this unexpected encounter reaffirmed my decision to stay strong and move forward with my life, without letting the shadows of the past dictate my present. In my new workplace, the understanding and occasional support from my colleagues and patients helped me get through the moment, strengthening my resolve to remain in the positive and welcoming environment I had found. This unexpected encounter not only tested my resilience, but also highlighted the importance of facing adversities with dignity and professionalism, especially in a setting dedicated to the well-being of others. In the days following the uncomfortable encounter with Brian and his wife, Maria, things were extremely challenging for me. Despite trying to maintain professionalism and focus on my work, the atmosphere in the clinic had become tense. Maria began visiting the clinic more frequently due to her pregnancy, and each visit tested my emotional endurance. One Tuesday morning, while preparing the reception area for the day's patients, Maria arrived for a follow-up appointment. I noticed her gaze harden and grow cold whenever she spoke to me. "Good morning, Maria. How are you feeling today? Any changes we should be aware of?" I asked, trying to keep my voice friendly and professional. "I'm fine, and I'd prefer if another nurse attended to me today," she responded curtly, avoiding eye contact. Her reaction left me feeling a void and deep sadness. It was clear that no matter how hard I tried to keep things professional, Maria's judgment and distrust towards me would continue to affect my ability to work effectively. Weeks passed, and the situation did not improve. The comments and glances of disdain did not only come from Maria, but also from other patients who began to notice the tension. This led to deep reflection about my well-being and happiness, and I finally made a decision. One afternoon, after a long day of work, I requested to speak with Dr. Smith in her office. "Dr. Smith, I need to talk to you about something important," I said, closing the door gently behind me. "Of course, Emily." "What's going on?" she asked, her expression showing concern. "I've been thinking a lot about my situation here, and after much consideration, I've decided it's best for me to resign from my position at the clinic," I announced with a firm but sad voice. Dr. Smith seemed surprised, but not entirely unexpected. "Emily, I'm very sorry you feel this way, but I understand your decision. You know this place will always be your home, and you have all my support, right?" she responded, offering me a compassionate and understanding look. "I know, and I appreciate it very much. This isn't an easy decision, but I believe it's the best for my mental and emotional health. The pressure and judgment are simply too much for me right now," I explained, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders as I spoke openly. "We'll miss you greatly, but I wish you the best, Emily. And if you ever decide to come back, the door is always open. Meanwhile, if you need anything or support during your transition, please let me know," Dr. Smith offered. I left her office and the clinic feeling relieved, but also melancholic. I knew that leaving my job wouldn't solve all my problems, but it was a necessary step to regain my peace and start a new chapter. In the following days, I dedicated myself to finding a less stressful and more welcoming environment, aware that my experience and compassion as a nurse could still be valuable in many other places. The decision to leave the clinic was difficult but necessary. It taught me that sometimes, to care for others, we must first take care of ourselves by setting healthy boundaries and stepping away from situations that compromise our emotional and professional integrity. This new path would be filled with challenges, but also new opportunities to grow and thrive in an environment that respected and valued my well-being as much as my skills. Leaving the clinic felt like closing a tumultuous chapter of my life. I needed to find a place where I could start fresh, heal, and rebuild both professionally and personally. With determination, I packed up my belongings. Each item I placed in the box symbolized a step towards my new beginning. As I closed the door to my apartment for the last time, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. Time to move forward, I whispered to myself, summoning the courage to embrace the unknown. I moved to a small apartment a few miles away from the city, near a local supermarket where I had taken a job. It was a drastic change for my career in nursing, but I found surprising satisfaction in this new role. The daily interactions with customers, helping them with their needs, and the less stressful environment provided a peace I hadn't felt in a long time. "Good morning, Emily. How are you today?" greeted John, the store manager, a kind and always smiling man. "Very well, thank you. I'm really enjoying working here," I replied, and it was true. Each day, I felt more at ease with the simple pleasures of my new life. One day, while organizing some shelves, a customer approached me seeking assistance. He was a man around my age with a gentle smile and kind eyes. "Excuse me, can you help me find the whole grain cereals?" he asked in a calm and friendly voice. "Of course, follow me. They're just down this aisle." I led him to the right section. As we walked, we began to chat. His name was David, and like me, he had gone through a difficult divorce. Our conversation flowed naturally, and we discovered we had a lot in common, including our love for books and hiking. Over time, David started visiting the supermarket more frequently. Our conversations became a regular and anticipated part of our days, and a few months later, we decided to start dating officially. It was new and exciting for both of us, a second chance at love we hadn't expected. "Emily, since I met you, my life has changed for the better. You make me very happy," David confessed one night while we were having dinner at a small local restaurant. "And you make me happy too, David. I never thought I would find someone to share so many laughs and dreams with again," I responded, feeling my heart fill with hope and affection. We decided to get married in a simple yet meaningful ceremony at the park where we had our first date. Our closest family and friends were present, celebrating not just our love, but also the new beginning we had both found. "I promise to love, respect, and support you through all the moments we share, in good times and bad," David bowed, looking into my eyes with all the love in the world. "And I promise to always be by your side, sharing every smile and terror in this new life together," I vowed back, knowing that each word was a brick in the life we were rebuilding together. We initially decided not to have children, a decision we both considered wise given our desire to focus on strengthening our relationship and enjoying each other's company at this stage in our lives. Thus began our married life, full of mutual care and consideration, supporting each other and exploring the new paths that life offered us. Each day was an opportunity to appreciate the love and second chance we had found, and every moment shared reinforced the certainty of our decision. A year into our marriage, life threw another surprise our way. At 48 years old, I discovered I was pregnant. The news was both shocking and wonderful. David and I were thrilled, albeit a bit nervous about the implications of having a baby at our age. Despite the concerns, the happiness we felt was indescribable. One morning, I went to the local clinic for a prenatal consultation. While waiting in the reception area, reviewing prenatal care pamphlets, I felt a familiar presence. Looking up, I saw Brian standing a few feet away. I hadn't seen him since our last unfortunate encounter at the maternity clinic, and his expression still held that same coolness. "Wow, Emily, isn't it a bit late for this kind of thing?" he remarked, a sarcastic tone evident in his voice. "Brian, this is a happy moment for David and me." "I'm not going to let your negative comments affect it," I replied, trying to maintain my composure. "Happy at this age? It's more of a risk than a blessing. Don't you think it's irresponsible?" he continued, his sarcasm cutting deep. Before I could respond, the clinic director, who had overheard our conversation from a nearby office, approached us. His face showed a mix of concern and anger. "Dr. Brian, is this how you speak to patients and colleagues?" he asked, clearly displeased. "It was just a joke. Nothing serious," Brian tried to justify, but his nervous tone betrayed him. "A joke like that is inappropriate, especially in a hospital where we expect our staff to show empathy and respect towards all patients, regardless of their situation," the director replied firmly. The tension in the room escalated as some people began to murmur, disapproving of Brian's comments. "I'm expecting a baby, something that should be celebrated, not criticized by unfounded prejudices about age," I finally said, my voice firm and clear. The director nodded in agreement and turned to Brian. "Dr. Brian, your behavior is completely unacceptable. I'm sorry, but I cannot allow someone with your attitude to continue working at this hospital. You're fired," he declared without hesitation. Brian stood there, pale and speechless. "You can't fire me for this," he protested, but it was too late. His lack of professionalism and empathy had crossed a line. Security escorted Brian out of the clinic, and the director apologized to me for the incident. "Emily, I'm very sorry for what you had to bear. Please accept our apologies, and I assure you your next visit will be more pleasant," he said, genuinely remorseful. I nodded, grateful for his intervention. Despite the unpleasant encounter with Brian, the director's quick action reaffirmed my decision to have my baby at this clinic. I knew I was in a place that respected and valued its patients. This incident, though stressful, strengthened my resolve to focus on the positive aspects of my pregnancy. I was determined not to let anything or anyone dim the joy of expecting our baby. David and I spent the following months preparing for the arrival of our child, our excitement growing each day. Finally, the big day arrived. I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl in the delivery room of the same hospital where I had faced many challenges. The labor was long but uncomplicated, thanks to the expert and compassionate care of the medical team. David was by my side the entire time, holding my hand and offering words of encouragement. His presence was my rock, providing the emotional support I needed. "You're doing incredibly, my love. Soon we'll meet our little girl," David whispered, his eyes filled with love and admiration. When I finally heard our daughter's first cry, emotions overwhelmed me. David cut the umbilical cord, and when they placed her in my arms, I knew that all the challenges we had faced were worth it. "She's perfect, Emily. She's our little miracle," David said, tears of joy in his eyes as he looked at both of us. From that moment, our lives revolved around our daughter. David proved to be an exceptionally dedicated and loving father. Each morning, he got up to prepare her breakfast and play with her, showing a patience and tenderness that deepened my love for him. Parenthood brought many challenges, especially considering our ages, but each difficulty taught us valuable lessons and strengthened our bond as a family. We learned the importance of patience, communication, and mutual support. "How's our little princess today?" David would ask every evening after work, always ready to scoop her up and shower her with love and attention. "She's been playing and laughing all day. She has us completely enchanted, doesn't she?" I would reply, sharing with him the small but significant moments of our day. Our life became a constant journey of learning and adaptation to our new reality. The nights could be long and tiring, but our daughter's smiles and coos in the morning dispelled any traces of fatigue. She brought a new layer of joy and unity to our lives. Weekends were spent exploring parks, visiting children's museums, and discovering new activities to stimulate her curiosity and development. Every experience was an adventure, and every learning moment was shared. The life we had now was the culmination of all our past experiences, filled with contentment and joy. Although the path had been difficult, it led us to a place we had never imagined possible, a life filled with love, laughter, and a perfect little girl who was our greatest blessing. Each day spent with David and our daughter was a gift. Emily, every day with you and her is a blessing. I wouldn't change a single moment, not even the challenges, because they brought us here, David would say during moments of reflection. And he was right. Despite everything, or perhaps because of it, our life was richer, fuller, and more joyful. We were raising our daughter with all the love and responsibility we could offer, hopeful and excited for all the days we had ahead as a family. As we navigated through the ups and downs of parenting, I found myself more grateful than ever for the journey we had taken. The pain and hardships of the past had transformed into the strength and happiness of our present. I cherished every laugh, every tear, and every dream we now shared. In those quiet moments of reflection, holding my daughter and watching David's tender interactions with her, I realized just how far we had come. Our story, though marked by struggles, was ultimately one of resilience, love, and new beginnings. It was a testament to the beauty of second chances and the power of hope. As I looked towards the future, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, with the same determination and love that had brought us to this point. Our family, though formed through unexpected twists and turns, was my greatest joy and my proudest achievement. And so, with each passing day, we continued to build our life together, one filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. The journey ahead was sure to bring its own share of trials and triumphs, but I was ready to embrace it all, knowing that I had the love and support of my family by my side.